Stephen, VMware Cloud on AWS was enhanced at VMware Explore, including new VMware Cloud on AWS Advanced Bundles, enhanced networking and security features, upcoming NSX Plus services, the availability of vSAN with express storage architecture for greenfield deployments, and the introduction of VPC peering support for Amazon FSx, which is aimed at improving the platform's capabilities and offering. Stephen, it sounds like VMware is really doubling down on this AWS integration. What's your take on it?
Yeah, so this is, well, honestly, it's a great improvement to the VMware Cloud on AWS offering. Again, just as a reminder, what is VMware Cloud on AWS? Essentially, this is run VMware except in AWS instead of in your data center. It is a real full, the thing that VMware does on premises, except it's running in AWS as an operational expense. It has been somewhat controversial because it is essentially what it says on the tin. It's VMware running on AWS, but it's actually been taken up by some of the customers because they kind of wanted that. They wanted the ability to use this either full-time or part-time for bursting, or for as a DR target, as a development environment, as a production environment. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that you might want to run VMware on AWS, and you can, and it's really good, and it just freaking works. So the advanced version of Cloud on AWS, which they're announcing here, is basically the same as what it was before, except with some bundled stuff. So what are you getting? You're getting ARIA services. You get the advanced networking and security stuff that we just talked about, NSX Plus, you get HCX. Another big aspect of this, as we talked about, is the inclusion of this vSAN Express storage architecture. The TLDR on that is that makes vSAN faster. This is basically further development of performance within vSAN. Do you want faster storage? Yeah, I think that'd be good. Okay. But the big one for me is probably the most, the one you might have glossed over if you looked at the announcement. So let me dive into the VPC peering support for Amazon FSx on NetApp ONTAP. This, again, it sounds like a lot, but let me explain what this is. So right now, when you're running VMware Cloud on AWS, you basically have two choices for storage. You can either use vSAN and basically have a hyperconverged type storage approach, or you can use what's called Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP. What the FSx is it is a integrated version of NetApp's popular storage arrays that runs in the cloud as a service, completely as a service, and is completely compatible and really high performance functional enterprise storage environment. Up until now, the only way to do this though was to basically pay some transit charges for data that's flowing between the VMware Cloud on AWS and the NetApp storage, which hasn't been a big deal for a lot of people because it wasn't a big problem, because maybe there wasn't, it didn't add up to as much in the grand scheme of things. But it adds up to something, and it provides some friction in there, and it makes you think, well, maybe I don't want to do this, or maybe that's not a really integrated solution because I have to pay for data that's flowing back and forth, and that's just not great. What they've done is they've figured out a clever way to introduce peering, which means that there's no transit charges, which means that if you're using VMware Cloud on AWS and Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP, you're able to send data back and forth for free. Basically, it's considered local data, and that means that the whole thing is much more the way you'd want it to be in the data center. If I told you that you had to pay for data transit between your storage array and your server in the data center, you'd think I was crazy, right? Well, until now, you've had to do that in the cloud, and now you don't with this specific offering. Now, I know you probably have heard that there's a lot of storage offerings in the world. There are even a lot of storage offerings, enterprise storage offerings in the cloud. But NetApp really has a unique position here because they are the only non-vSAN storage offering that is 100% compatible, integrated, functional, as a service managed service for VMware Cloud on AWS. And that's what this is all about. And this basically takes away the one big but from that whole discussion. And I think a lot of people are going to start looking at VMware Cloud on AWS plus the FSx NetApp offering as a way to replicate their data center into the cloud. And I think that's good for customers.